Hello everyone, we are Group 11. Today we will discuss environmental, social, and governance factors in real estate finance, as well as incentives and penalties of ESG compliance and non-compliance. We will also discuss differences in ESG sentiment and policy in foreign countries as compared to the United States. Thank you, and we hope you enjoy.
What is ESG? ESG stands for Environmental, Social, and Governance, and it has become an important business consideration all around the world. For real estate finance, the idea is that not only can investors achieve strong investment returns and cut down on costs, but they can also find sustainable investment opportunities that are beneficial to employees and society as a whole. Let's get to the first component, which is environmental. According to S&P Global, environmental considers a company's utilization of natural resources and the effect of their operations on the environment. Environmental criteria can include climate change, carbon footprint, water conservation, renewable energy usage, and safe disposal of waste. According to CBRE's 2021 Global Investor Intention Survey, in the environmental component, energy saving and carbon reduction is the new trend, and many investors are formally including carbon neutrality objectives in new investment strategies. For example, green leases between landlord and tenants to meet certain environmental objectives will become a more common tool for investors to monitor and maintain environmental performance of their properties. While the shift to energy savings and net zero emissions should be quite easy for office tenants, investors will need to find solutions for retail occupiers, many of whom use energy-intensive lighting for product displays. However, owners and operators can create significant positive impact with green leases and technology. For example, the City Square Mall in Singapore had all tenants agree to adopt green practices within its premises. The mall has auto lighting on escalator and in parking lots, saving more than 50,000 kilowatt hours of electricity every year. High-efficiency air conditioners and variable air volume technology help moderate the mall's temperature, saving energy and limiting the emissions of no more than 4,000 tons of carbon dioxide annually. Today, many investors are finding that by reducing their resource use, they can also save money. For example, Freddie Mac's Green Advantage program offers significant financial incentives for loan borrowers who meet the requirements. These programs will increase loan-to-value allowance and reduce debt service coverage ratio requirements to borrowers who are able to reduce the entire property energy consumption by at least 15% and reduce either energy and/or water by additional 15% for a total of 30%. Real estate can have a significant social impact either through the form of rehabilitation of public spaces or through an environmental-focused investment on new buildings such as green buildings. In New York City, Local Law 33 requires owners of buildings over 25,000 square feet to obtain the building energy efficiency rating labels and display them near public entrances by October 31st of each year. The building energy efficiency rating can be used to evaluate the building's energy consumption, overall comfort, and energy costs. By taking active steps to improve the building energy efficiency rating, real estate owners and investors can cut down on operational costs, increase comfort for residents, and reduce the building's impact on climate change. The income benefits for investors are clear. Green buildings will command higher rents and higher capital values while incurring lower monthly operating and maintenance costs.
The S in ESG stands for social, and I found a quote by CBRE that will help to explain that a little better. Real estate is unique as an asset class in that it is an integral component of neighborhoods and communities. It is occupied by a broad range of users, including families, students, and companies, cannot be physically moved, and influences the value and character of surrounding properties and land uses. With property being essential to the economic health of a region and the productivity of all who use it, real estate has profound social impact on the communities in which it is located. Affordable housing offers attractive impact investing opportunities. An impact investment is defined as investments that generate significant social and environmental benefits while also providing strong financial returns. Trade-offs between creating positive social impacts and obtaining attractive investment returns include: despite this commonly held assumption, many investors are realizing favorable returns from their impact portfolios. PGIM Real Estate Impacts Value Partners Fund 4 is a transformative development of sustainable real estate to low to moderate income housing, and they expect a 12 to 14% return this year. Turner Multifamily Fund 2 focuses on developing community-serving infrastructure, healthcare facilities, and affordable rental housing, and they expect a 10% return this year. Redevelopment of the Han & Co. building is also another example. It was converted into a mixed-use development by L&M Development, Prudential, and Goldman Sachs into 160 mixed-income apartments, 40% of which were affordable with commercial and community space. Since this completion, the property has achieved high occupancy and rental rates above pro forma estimates. Health and wellness is influenced building and design and operation. COVID pandemic has led to increased demand for workplace wellness features by office occupiers. Proper air ventilation and filtration are emerging as key focuses. Higher ceilings, allocation of 50 square feet of office space per person are two main concerns. Awareness around hygiene has increased during the pandemic also. Regular cleaning of shared amenities, providing protective products, and installing signs and information points are four examples of this. Other short-term and low-cost ways to enhance workplace wellness are ensuring natural light is at workstations, offering healthy food options, providing exercise opportunities, and organizing counseling sessions for employees. International Well Building Institutes, or IWBIs, are the premier standards for buildings, interior spaces, and communities seeking to implement, validate, and measure features that support and advance human health and wellness. WELL set standards for indoor air quality as it relates to particulate matter and inorganic gases. WELL consists of more than 100 features across 10 areas, including air, water, nourishment, light, movement, thermal comfort, sound, materials, mind, and community. Also addresses design and operation of buildings and how they impact the health and wellness related to behavior. Increasing occupier demand for properties that provide high air quality, ventilation systems, and other indoor environmental features will require landlords and investors to recalibrate their strategies accordingly. How to consider social impacts in investment and asset management strategies. Good health and well-being is one way. Research demonstrates direct correlation between building features and occupants' physical and mental health. Healthy buildings typically include high-quality water and ambient air, healthy food options, fitness amenities, natural light, and biophilic features such as green walls or indoor plants. Decent work and economic growth is another way. Social impacts can be measured by buildings' contribution to the economy, such as municipal tax revenue. It's also important to look at how many local jobs and small businesses the property supports. Sustainable cities and communities is also an option. A property can support the social infrastructure of surrounding community by leasing space for essential services, such as healthcare, community engagement events, or offer affordable housing. The last option is to reduce inequalities. In office properties, is it important to serve the needs of increasingly diverse employees who work in office buildings, such as providing general nature bathrooms, lactating rooms, or prayer rooms as options.
ESG investments into real estate are driven through credits and penalties. Developers have a higher rate of return building inefficient or luxury developments than they do building energy efficient and affordable housing complexes. Without incentives and penalties, ESG is less profitable in comparison, so the financial benefits of ESG need to be influenced by government. ESG growth is societally necessary, so market motivators exist in both the USA and in the European Union in order to encourage ESG investment into real estate. These credits are aimed towards making ESG investment a financially viable alternative for investors. The lower income housing tax credit falls under the social branch of ESG investment. It is the first widely used ESG credit, becoming a law under the 1986 Tax Reform Act. Since 1987, 3.4 million units have been built through the lower income housing tax credit. The lower income housing tax credit is a dollar for dollar tax credit that lasts for 10 years and originates when units are made available for tenants. Eligibility for the lower income housing tax credit requires 40% of the total units to be set an annual rent ceiling of 30% of 3/5 of the area median income. So if AMI is 30,000, eligibility income would be 18,000, 30% of which is 5,400, meaning that the maximum monthly rent that developers could charge would be $450 per month per unit. LIHTC provides investors with a dollar for dollar credit of 4 to 9%, depending on credit of the accrued development cost for a period of 10 years. So if a project cost is $1 million to complete and is awarded a credit of 5%, supposing its annual tax payment is $60,000, received credit would be $50,000, reducing the tax paid and increasing the financial benefit for developers. Lastly, the credit is transferable with the restriction that the original recipient of the credit must maintain the development for 15 years. Carbon credits fall under the environmental branch of ESG investment. Environmental action is important as the real estate industry accounts for 30 to 45% of global carbon emissions annually. The European Union levies taxes against carbon emissions, and both the EU and the USA offer carbon credits for firms with carbon neutrality. Carbon taxes are generally between $40 to $110 per ton and have been increasing at an annual rate. Using an average of $50 per ton, a firm that emits 100,000 tons of carbon annually would pay $5 million in penalties. Carbon credits are awarded through measurable carbon offsets. For example, an investor with a large tract of land chooses to plant 10,000 trees and has measurable data for the resultant carbon recapture. This investor may be eligible for carbon credits. Carbon credits can be used transactionally through a large secondary market, and it is common for commercial real estate firms to purchase carbon credits to offset their respective carbon footprints. One real estate firm, named Standard Life Investments, recently purchased 3,000 acres of land in Ireland to plant 1.5 million trees, directly offsetting 195,000 tons of carbon emissions from their company's activities. Qualified Opportunity Zones fall under both the social and environmental branches of ESG investment. The Qualified Opportunity Zone program was created under the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act and is one of the most recent ESG credits. The credit encourages growth in elected low-income neighborhoods by providing tax advantages to socially and environmentally beneficial projects. The goal is to incentivize private capital to invest in publicly beneficial projects. Qualified Opportunity Zone investments provide the financial benefit of proceeds being free from capital gains taxes. Reinvestments of capital gains into Qualified Opportunity Zones will also, in most cases, allow a tax deferral of up to 9 years.
I'm going to be comparing ESG investment in the US versus the EU. Europe is easily the global sector leader in terms of ESG and accounts for about 81% of the world's ESG investment compared to the 14% of the US. And these numbers are quite staggering when you take into account that the US actually has a higher percentage of global fund assets than the EU, but still falls way behind in ESG. Europe definitely has the first mover advantage, but the US should not be so far behind. Part of the difference can be attributed to the US's lack of standardization in reporting of ESG deals, and the Commercial Real Estate Finance Council has been trying to fix this and set ESG reporting standards in commercial mortgage-backed securities. In addition to the lack of standardization in reporting, the U.S. faces additional challenges developing ESG as there's no real consensus on climate issues, which are pretty much split down party lines. I would say that these two things are responsible for the differences that you see in the graph and are going to make it difficult to narrow the gap between the US and the EU in the future. The SFDR is largely responsible for the success of Europe and the ESG market. SFDR stands for the EU Sustainable Finance Disclosure Regulation, which is a set of EU rules which aim to make the sustainability profile of funds more comparable and better understood by end investors. So thanks in part to the detailed regulatory framework that the SFDR provides, Europe is thriving in the ESG market. Europe is also more focused on the E in ESG, which is the environmental aspect, and the SFDR is tied into this too, as it's aligned with the European Green Deal, whose goal is to see the EU become carbon neutral by 2050, and to continue the trend of Europe prioritizing the environmental aspect of ESG. We have the River Green Finance Deal. This is one of the most noteworthy ESG deals in Europe, as it was the first ever European green commercial mortgage-backed security deal that was valued as a loan of 196.2 million euros or $219.6 million. So the EU as a whole is fully bought into the ESG market and will continue to dominate this until something